in the pop lexicon. Now, let's be honest, okay? I don't know how Jump didn't stand out. It's an anthem. It was a number one hit, 5 weeks at number one. It is 35 years later, okay? That song, actually, it's more than 35 years later, 36 years later, that song is still played constantly every day at every stadium, at every sporting event. It's an anthem. Anyway, Eddie Trunk goes on this whole Jump rant, and he asked Michael Anthony, what did you think of Jump? Michael Anthony says, I loved it. I thought it was fresh. I thought it was different. Then they asked Sammy. He says, well, Jump had to be done, meaning in concert in the set list, because it was such a hit. But lyrically, it was silly. It was a fun, happy pop song. And then he says, I'll Wait. I didn't like that song, which I think actually Sammy would sound incredible on I'll Wait with his vocals. I don't know why he
true.
I don't know why he never tried to do that one. He could have killed that song. Then he starts getting into a tirade, and this is what kind of made press around the world news. And by the way, I want to say, before Eddie Trunk got his hands on this, my interview with Sammy addresses this in 2018. If you go back to October 2018, my interview with Sam on this podcast, okay, addresses this fully. And they act like this is brand new news out of Sammy Hagar. Go check it out, folks. I'll even tell you what episode it was. I have to look it up, but it's back in...
Yeah, could you tell me, please? Because I don't listen to my own work.
The size cock that you are cannot be expressed. So anyway, so listen to me. He says, this is Sammy Hagar, everybody blames me for the keyboard era of Van Halen. I didn't do any of that. That's what Eddie did. He liked playing keyboards, and he was good at it. And then Michael Anthony stepped in and said, once Ed got into that keyboard thing, he rarely picked up his guitar for a while. He said he would be playing keyboards all the time. That's from Michael Anthony. Then Sammy Hagar said, I sang to what he gave me, and I could sing to any damn thing, which is a cocky comment, but also true. He says he'd play a keyboard tune, and Valerie would come down and validate it, like when he wrote When It's Love. And then he said, listen, it was not me whatsoever. I just went along with what we had. I'm a guitar player. And he says, like something like, finish what you started, I think he used as an example. He said, that's like something that's right up my alley, you know. I went along with what we had. And then he talked about Eddie's left hand, and he says he's got a left hand that has a funky quality to it like Bootsy Collins on the bass. Now, one thing that Sam has never done is criticize or crush Eddie Van Halen's musicality. He will stand the test of time and say that man is a musical fucking genius. And he is. And just recently, Dave, on Eddie Trunk's top 5 guitarists of all time. Okay, he did a top 5 guitarists of all time. Not definitive, but like, who's your top 5 guitarists of all time? And Eddie Van Halen was on the top of like almost everybody's list. It was unbelievable. Like, undeniable. More than Hendrix, more than anybody. Just personally, can you guess my top 5, Dave? See if you can. You don't have to put them in order. Take a guess, my top 5. I sent it in to Eddie.
Of guitarists?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Eddie Van Halen.
Sure.
Joe Satriani.
Absolutely.
Steve Vai.
Absolutely.
This is when it gets a little tricky. Of all time.
Of all time. My favorites.
Keith Richards.
No.
Love
the Stones, but I'm talking about guitarists.
Okay. Jimmy Page.
Absolutely. And you got one more. You know what it is. Come on now.
Oh.
Think, Dave. He's a guy we both absolutely love.
Oh, man. I can't handle the...
We went together to go see a monumental show together to see this guy.
I can't handle the pressure.
Oh, wow, you are fucking old. It is as obvious as my bald head. Go ahead, come on.
Oh, man.
The silence is deafening.
I'm
Clapton!
Now I'm like,
Clapton!
I'm trying to think, who have I seen
Clapton!
You with? I've not seen Clapton with Cream.
We went to see Cream together.
Cream.
Come on.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Clapton. That was hands down just phenomenal. So that was my top 5. Do you have a top 5? What would be your top 5?
Top 5 guitarists of all time?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Well, Eddie Van Halen, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Clapton is there if you stop at about 1970.
The years don't matter. We're talking about of all time.
Okay.
It's your personal favorites. It's not like who is the definitive best. It is who your favorites are.
So I have to put Chris Isaak's guitarist on there, Jimmy Wilsey, James Calvin Wilsey.
Okay.
He's one of my favorites of all time.
Right.
Who else?
Say Mike Nesmith and you lose a nut.
No, he's not as a guitarist. Not as a guitarist. As a performer and a songwriter,
there you go.
yes.
Okay.
But not as a guitarist. Jimmy Page would be on that list.
Okay, there you go.
Man, there's got to be...
Clapton doesn't make the list?
No, I said Clapton.
Oh, you did?
List,
okay. So you have Page,
yeah,
you have Clapton, you have Eddie Van Halen like me. So that's 3. You got the Chris Isaak guy, and then who's the 5th?
Who is the 5th? Wow, that's a good question. Wow.
I'm surprised you didn't throw one of your blues guys in there like...
I'm trying to think who one of the blue... I love Jeff Beck with the Yardbirds.
Yeah. Well, that
we
counts.
can throw that in there.
All right, there
Jeff
you go.
Beck with the Yardbirds.
Jeff Beck with the Yardbirds. Okay, good. In continuing with this interview with Eddie Trunk, he talked about Season 5 coming up for the Rock and Roll Road Trip. We'll get to that later on in the news. His Vegas residency he addressed. And, God knows when this is going to happen. And he did say it'll happen. We'll have to see when it happens. Prior, as we said in our last Van Halen news, it was supposed to be as a warm-up for this Circle Tour. It doesn't look like that's going to happen because it was supposed to happen in June. But the Vegas residency is supposed to be sort of a weekend event. And this sounds really interesting. Michael Anthony says, well, Sam, tell him what it's going to be like. This is not a show. It's a day-long event. They want it to be a full thing. And Sammy says, we're going to create an environment that you walk into and be transported to. He says they want to make it a full, long weekend thing. He says, doing the birthday bashes at Cabo changed my life, and I want to bring the same vibe down to Vegas. That was really exciting to hear, and he said that they'll have all kinds of guests. It'll be different every time, and who's ever in town is going to be welcome to come on stage and perform with Sammy. And Michael Anthony was excited about that. And then Michael Anthony also talked about doing something with a restaurant with his hot sauce, which is sort of interesting. He says that's coming along somehow in the future. There's going to be some sort of tie-in with Mad Anthony's hot sauce. So what did you make of that, Dave?
I don't know. His timing may be off now. He may be.
Yeah, I know.
Rethinking that decision.
Absolutely.
But I'd be very curious to see if he actually goes the restaurant route. That's a tough business.
Yeah.
You really got to know what you're doing. I mean, if he sold the hot sauce to restaurants and focused on that, I could see him doing that.
What he should do is they should have Mad Anthony's hot sauce at every Cabo Wabo. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's totally the way to go. But yeah, he's thinking about restaurant. I mean, that's interesting, but man, that's a tough business. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't hear about that in the future because of what's happening now.
Of course. So now Sammy Hagar dominating the Van Halen news this time out. Of course, we talked about earlier Sammy's tour. Okay, we said Whitesnake is out. David Coverdale's getting operation for a hernia. Now, my question to you, Dave, is who do you think could fill that spot? Now, it's most likely not going to be David Lee Roth. That would be great, but because of his commitments, this and that, who knows? But I was thinking, what about Joe Satriani? He's got a brand new album out. Why not put him in on that tour? What do you think of that? Or what about this, Dave? Doing a chicken foot set in the middle of that tour. That would be incredible.
I was going to say Joe would only work if they did the chicken foot set, but honestly...
Well, he could do a solo set.
Yeah, no. Joe does a solo set. Yeah. Sam does a solo set.
Right, and wait, Dave. Wait, Dave. Joe is touring with Kenny Arnoff on drums, who played and filled in for Chad Smith on the second Chickenfoot tour.
Right. Well, so then there you go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would work, but but let me be honest and put it to you this way. Does that have the muscle power of Whitesnake? I don't know.
I don't know. Listen, if you put Joe Satriani in there, and you know what? You finish his set with like a 3-song Chickenfoot thing, that would be cool.
That would be, but that would be the only way it would work.
Yeah, well,
that would be the only way it would work. But look, I'm not overselling Chicken Foot either, because I mean we like them, but it's not like there's tons of people out there going.
No, I know, and they've been gone. They've been gone a while.
They have, and I mean, not that there's tons of people going, ooh, Whitesnake, but I mean, Whitesnake is definitely a bigger draw.
Oh, totally, yeah, absolutely.
So that would be the only way it would work, is if they did Chicken Foot at the end. If not, and they're trying to get the same draw that they have with Whitesnake, I don't know that Joe is the guy.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see about that. What about Extreme? They got a new album possibly coming out soon.
Man, I think that's even less of a draw.
Oh, boy. All right.
I'm not saying they're not a talented band. They're a very talented band. But in terms of draw, I don't think so.
Well, fantastic live band, that's for sure. Extreme Live is fantastic. And what about this, Dave? What about Wolfie?
Oh, well, that's not going to happen. And that's even less of a draw. So the only way this works is if he gets Dave and Extreme and Wolf.
Right.
Now, I don't know how you're going to get everybody to play 6 songs, but I mean, that's the Everybody in Van Halen except for Ed and Al tour.
That's right. The Sans Halen Tour Part 2.
Right. But, they really need to do something like that, because once touring starts up again, it's not like people are going to be like, oh, let's go back, because a lot of people aren't working.
Right.
So the concert industry is really going to suffer. So you're going to start seeing again a lot of these double and triple bills.
Absolutely.
So Sam really needs to find somebody. I mean, don't forget, they had, what was it, Night Ranger?
Yes, Night Ranger is already on the bill.
So that's not bad. That's decent. But they really need somebody else to slot it in.
Speaking of Whitesnake. Speaking of Whitesnake, slide it in. Well, listen, you know what? Here's my question. Why the fuck can't the Circle go out with just Night Ranger? The two of them are phenomenal live bands. I saw a Night Ranger Circle tour just last year. That was phenomenal. They both can play great sets. Sammy's got enough material. He could play for hours. I mean, why not just do that?
They can, but they're not going to fill the venue size that they've committed to with the Whitesnake tour. Yeah. That's why they need somebody else.
I guess so. Move it to a smaller venue or something like that. Anyway, speaking of Sammy, he continues to dominate the news where Sammy and the Circle released a new song, sort of. They did a song on Instagram where they all perform in their homes on video, whatever, Zoom, Skype, whatever the fuck you call it, with a song called Funky Feng Shui. And here's a clip right here. Funky Feng Shui. And I love the groove of this song. I thought this was fun. This is new. This song apparently came from a sound check jam that they used to do during, sound check when they were on the last tour. And what did you think of this song, Dave?
I thought it was cool. It was just a nice little jam, right down to the basics, nothing fancy, right up Sam's alley. I thought Mike's bass on it was really.
God!
You don't hear him play that funky too often.
Never.
So I thought
so good.
He was really good. And this was like the perfect way to do that song. This song totally lent itself to just 4 guys screwing around and just throwing it together. So for what it was great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They also did a second version where they did Won't Get Fooled Again. Now, the Funky Feng Shui was only 1 minute and 19 seconds. Then they did a second one where they also were all in their homes via Skype or Zoom or whatever, doing Won't Get Fooled Again, which was a little longer. It was 2 minutes and 16 seconds. And boy, did you get some nice, thick Michael Anthony bass and his background vocals. Holy cow, I love this.